Welcome back! Today I'm going to show you how I went from this image to that image in Photoshop. Alright guys, my name is Philip and let's jump right into Photoshop. Now this one was amazing because we're going to completely change the look of this particular image here, which I've taken somewhere in the States in Utah in the national park called Zion. And as you can see here, or as you maybe remember from the processed one, we're going to create a reflection out of the top part and just add it to the bottom. And we're also going to completely change the colors as they are here right now. So let's get going with this. First thing I want to do, I'm going to hit C on my keyboard, which brings up the crop tool. Once I have that, I need to increase my canvas size. I need more space. Once I have done that to something like, maybe like this, we can always make it smaller later. I'm going to click M on my keyboard, which brings up the Marquee tool, and I'm going to select the part I want to mirror. Let's go in a little bit here. Let's deselect that. So we have a bit of a closer look. Maybe something like this would not be bad to mirror, I suppose. Once I have done that, I'm going to hit Command and J on the keyboard because that will make a copy of whatever I had selected just now. You can see here now we have, like, let me move that around a little bit. We have exactly the part we had selected, and then we have the part which was the original before. Awesome. Let me just bring that back to more or less a position where it was. Once I have done that, I'm going to hit Command and T on the keyboard, which brings up the Transform tool. I'm going to say right click, and I'm going to say Flip Vertical. Cool. Let's drop that down. More or less to the position where we want it to be, well, how would you say, like the reflection of the lake, where would it start? So let me put it maybe around, let me see, maybe around here is not bad. Once I'm happy, I'm going to hit Enter, and we see the canvas is still a little bit too large, so what I'll do, I'll just hit C on the keyboard, and just slightly bring it back into something like that. Awesome. Now that we have that, we have to sort of make them fit together a little bit more. What I'll do, I'll create a quick layer mask on the first one by clicking on the little Japanese flag symbol down here. And what I'll do, I'll press brush on my I'll press brush on my keyboard. Now I'll push B for brush on my keyboard, zoom in, and you can definitely see there's this line where we're trying to make these two images aligned. So what I'll do, on the layer mask, which is currently white, I'll use a black brush. And with an opacity of, say, 30%, and maybe a little bit smaller brush, I'm going to start to make sure that line is not there. Okay, so I'm just going to through like that until I have reached the other side to make sure the reflection is actually even. We don't want to have this kind of weird line sticking out there. Awesome, that's going to take me a moment. I'll bring you back once I'm done. And we're back, and I've made sure that there is no hard line in between these two images, and it looks more or less like a smooth transition. We're going to make that dark anyway, so nobody will be able to, zoom in 500% and see that there might not be a perfect match. This shouldn't be the case, because we're going to take care of it later. Now, what I would like to do on this particular step, on this particular stage, is I would like to put some waves in this particular water, because right now it's not very watery, is it? So what I'll do, I'll just have the sort of the reflection layer selected. I'll hit Command and J to make a copy of this one and hide the previous one. Just in case I mess it up badly, I always have one at least to fall back to. And once I have done that, we need to prepare some things. Now, to create water is a little bit of, well, there are many steps involved, which may seem complicated if you have never done it, but they're actually not. So I'll just run through, and very soon I will create a separate tutorial on that, and then you can just quickly check if you need more time. Either you slow down, or you have a break, you just hit pause in the video, or you check the other one. For now, let me show you how to run through. I'm going to hit Command and N on my keyboard. They're going to ask me if I want to create a new file. I say yes, please, with a height and a width of 1000 by 600. I'll hit OK. Once I have done that, I'm going to hit Shift and Backspace, and I'm going to say fill with 50% gray. Awesome. Once I have done that, I'm going to go to Filter and down to Noise, and then Add Noise. I want to add as much noise as I can, Gaussian and monochromatic. I'm going to hit OK. Perfect. Up to here, not too hard, I suppose, right? Let's zoom in a little bit, so it's going to look like that. Perfect waves. Of course not. Okay. Let's play with that a little bit more. Once I have done that, I have to remove the little lock on the background layer, so I'm just going to click on it and put it in the trash, like so. So now that we can edit this particular layer, I'm going to go to Filter and down to Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I give it a blur of about 2 pixels. Just something like that. Hit OK. And now it's the tricky part, and again, I'm going to do this much slower in a different video which will follow shortly. But for now, I'm going to have to change from layers in the lower right to channels. There, I click on red, and without further explanation, I'm just going to go ahead and go down to, where is it here, stylize, emboss. I'm going to use an angle of 180 degrees, more or less, height of 1, amount of 500, hit OK. I'm going to go to green and do the exact same thing nearly. Go to emboss, change the angle to 90 degrees this time, height 1, amount 500, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, if I switch the RGB back on, you can see that now it looks kind of, well, colory, I suppose. So what I want to do now, with this one selected, I'm going to hit Command and T on the keyboard. That'll bring up the perspective transformation something tool. So now I can essentially do with the layer whatever I want to do. And what I want to do, I want to have the perspective warp. So right click, perspective. I'll zoom out to something like that, grab one of the corners. And once I click, I press my Alt key on the keyboard and drag it to the side. To something like that. Once I'm happy, I'm going to hit enter. And when I zoom in now, you will see that it looks way more like waves than it has done before. Now it's a little bit too strong, especially in the back here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my channels, select my red channel, hit Q on the keyboard, and with a gradient from black to white, I'm going to go up, select something like, I suppose, that here, hit Q again, hit hit Shift and Backspace and fill this with 50% gray. Once I'm done, I'm going to deselect that. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the green layer. And because I think that might be incredibly confusing for you right now, I'm just quickly going to do it. And once I'm done, I'll go back to my layer, deselect, and this is exactly the file I was looking for. What you have to do once you have reached that step, as confusing as it might be, save this file as a PSD file somewhere on your computer, because we're going to have to import that into our other file. Okay, awesome. And we are back in our original processing. Now remember, we just saved a funny PSD file. Okay, so what we have to do, we're going to have to use the displacement method to bring it in and actually create some waves within our reflection here. And remember, do not worry if you didn't really fully get that part I have just done in the other file. That is normal because I didn't explain anything, but I will do so either in the description down below the video, so in the blog most likely, or in the new video which I'll make shortly. Awesome, so let's bring that in. Okay, so we have our layer here, right? So I'm going to take that, I'm going to go to filter, and I'm going to go down to, oh yeah, of course, under distort, there is a displacement. Awesome, so you're going to hit, here you have to experiment a little bit, and by the way, here's a little tip, okay? I'm going to apply a filter now, which is not as large, so the file we have created just now was 600 by 1000 pixels. This image is obviously far, far, far taller and larger and, you know, just massive. So in this particular sense, it depends now where, and if I hit V, you can see what I mean, where I put this, okay? And the filter or the displacement method we're going to use will have different effects, okay? It'll look different if I put it here compared to what happens when I put it here, okay? So I'll leave it probably somewhere here now when I use that. And the numbers you have just seen when you go to, well, was it distort and displace, these 10 and 40, it's normally good practice to have horizontal scale half of what the vertical scale is, but you can obviously play with that a little bit more, okay? You say stretch to fit, and you say repeat edge pixel, and then you just hit OK and find the file on your computer. And I have found the file, I just clicked on open, and what happens now if I zoom in, and I may move that back to where it was before, you will see what I am talking about. Okay, let's put it to its original position, which seems to be something like that. Cool, so now we have what we have done. We have applied the waves in the other file to our image here, okay? And it might look a little bit weird because there is no clear transition anymore. And now you have to decide how much of each you want to keep. Remember, we still have one more layer beneath that, which is normal. So I have to switch that back and forth. And if you have a look at these particular waves here, you can see that this one currently has the waves and the one below does not have them, right? So I want to make sure that first of all, they are perfectly aligned, or at least as best as possible. Maybe to something like that. Yep, perfect. And once I have done that, I'm going to click back on the layer mask for the one which has the waves, hit B on my keyboard, make the brush nice and large to something like that, and with an opacity of say 30%, I'm going to remove the effect from the actual area just in the very beginning of our lake, essentially. You don't have these kind of massive waves, just where the lake starts, right? That doesn't make much sense. And again, you can experiment with that to your heart's content, right? As I said, depending on where you put the lower part of our image, when you apply the filter, you'll get different results. For now, I'm happy enough with it, even though the waves are a bit crazy maybe, but you know, you get the idea. For now, that is not bad. Awesome. It is time to take the color into our own hands. I'm going to hit Command Alt Shift and E on my keyboard, which will create a so-called stamp visible. This will copy everything you can see onto a new layer, as I have it now here in the lower right hand corner. Awesome. Once I have that, now I want to have everything red in this image. The theme for this particular image is red. The problem is I could now, start and select the color range of the trees and then change them to red and all these kind of things. Or I use the easier way. I select my new layer, I hit Filter, go down to the Nik collection, which is a free plugin, and I'm going to go to Color Effects Pro. And one day, once this has loaded up, there is one filter which I believe is called Indian Summer. And one day I will be able to show you. One day. Awesome. Here we go. Now we're going to use another one later, which is called the B color filters. But for now, we're just looking. No, go down. Yep, here it is, Indian Summer. And as you can see, when I go back and forth, it just does the trick for me. I don't have to go in and select whatever I need to select just to change the color of the trees. It does it automatically, and I'm loving it. Let's hit OK just here. And it's going to think for a little bit, create a copy of my layer automatically. And I'm just going to have to wait and sit back. I'm going to get a coffee, guys. I'm back in a moment. And there we go. Our trees are now red, as is all the other plant material. And I like it, but it's not quite there yet, right? I want more red in the mountain in the background, but I also need this blue to go away a little bit. So let's start off with the blue. What I will do, I will just create a quick hue saturation layer. Go instead of my master, I'm going to go down to blues, and I'm going to bring down the saturation to maybe something like that. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down. Perfect. Then I'm going to choose a levels adjustment layer because I think it's time to create a little bit of darkness in that area. And for now, I'm just going to look at the water itself. Okay, I'm looking at the reflection in the water. And there is still some blue on the right-hand side. You will not escape. Okay, let's create maybe something like that. I also actually like what it does in the sky. That's not bad. Okay, let's maybe do like that. Perfect. Now, I don't want this everywhere, right? The level adjustment I just did is a little bit too drastic to be applied everywhere. So what I'll do, I'll hit Command and I on my keyboard. Therefore, I invert the effect, or I invert the layer mask better. And with a white brush, I can now decide where I want to have this effect to be visible. And of course, as I mentioned before, I want the effect definitely in the water. Cool. So I'll just go over it with an opacity of around 20%. I'll just click that through. Okay. Here in the mountain as well. Perfect. Now, while I'm at it, I'm just going to create quickly another hue saturation layer. And this one I just leave in general, and I bring the saturation down. There's this blue is still in there. Similar principle, I have now no color everywhere, which is not what I want. I hit Command and I, and with a brush, I can just go in and take the color out of the areas where I want to get rid of it. So let's make the brush a little bit smaller. And with an opacity of 30%, I'm just going to quickly, I'm not going to take a great amount of care. I'll just get rid of the blue everywhere down here. And I'll go up and quickly do the same thing. Of course, if you're smart, you do all these things before you actually mirror, because then you save some work. But hey, whatever. Cool, so now it's not as blue anymore. Awesome, so let's work a little bit more on that light and on that color in particular. Therefore, the next thing is to take a normal curve adjustment layer by clicking on the curve adjustment layer symbol and just bringing the curve down. I need darkness. More darkness to maybe something like that. Awesome, I'm going to invert that again, hitting Command and I, because that's something I definitely don't want everywhere. And with an opacity of 20%, I'm just very roughly right now bring this darkness through in the middle here, where the two horizons of the lake theoretically would meet. Then with less opacity, I'm just going to sort of brush the effect out into the reflection here to something like that. Cool. Now we need something similar, something similarly amazing in the top part. So the darkness which we have now, which we have in the bottom trees, is not bad. I'm going to take a little bit of that and also put it in the top ones. Just a tiny bit, not too much. Maybe something like that. Awesome. Now what we can do next is we can create a where are you? Let's just try and see what happens with a hue saturation layer, and I'm going to increase the saturation. And I'm just looking at the mountain in the back and nothing else. To something like, maybe something like that. We can try. Also, what happens if we change the hue just a little bit? Again, I'm just observing the mountain. I do not take care of anything else right now. Okay, maybe something like this is not bad. Cool. I actually also like the intense color in the trees. We're going to take a little bit of that. Now, I'm going to hit Command and I on my keyboard, and with an opacity of 10% in my brush, I'm going to bring this color through in the particular mountain here. Okay, so I'll just go in and brush the hell out of it as often as I need to. And I'll also do a similar thing right here in these trees and let them shine a little bit more. More shining. Okay. Now, in this particular area, there's also this side of the mountain. We do need the same color there. Cool. To make sure that we put the effect properly, we can also go create a quick color band. Today, I cannot talk. I will just show you. Cyan, red, red. Awesome. A bit more yellow. Perfect. A bit more that. A bit more red. Cool. Once more, I don't want that everywhere. Command I, inverted, brush it through. Awesome, perfect. Awesome. Now let's put also a little bit of that in the lower part here. Just to put enough attention on it, especially in the top part here. Cool. And we are already very close to what I had created there. Now, the only thing I also did, I'm not sure, because every time you work on an image, it might work and it doesn't, but let's just see if I can replicate exactly what I have done before. I'm going to hit Command Alt Shift and E, which creates another stamp visible, meaning everything that I have done before copied onto a new layer. Now I'm going to go back to Filter, Nik Collection, and Color Effects Pro. And one day when it has loaded up, I'm going to look for a filter called the B color filter, if I'm not mistaken. And once more, one day I will be able to show you. One day. And here we are, and now I can show you the B color filters. Right, so I want this particular one, okay, and I think I need to rotate this one around. Do I? I do not need to rotate it around. I'm going to leave it like this. Now here I can play a little bit with the particular, with the opacity and the blend and all these kind of things, and I just like what it does, and I especially like what it does to the top area of our mountain area, right? I think that's a pretty cool effect, definitely. And I mean, of course we can do it ourselves, but hey, why would we do that if it does it for us? So let's just check how far we want this effect to go. And I think something like this is definitely enough. I'm going to hit OK, and once it is done, I will brush the hell out of it and brush it through wherever I need. But for that, we first have to wait until the filter is done. I'm going to bring you back in a moment. Awesome, and the filter is done. So, of course, I'm not the biggest fan of the yellow in our reflection. So let's create a layer mask by hitting the little layer mask symbol, invert it by hitting Command and I, and with a nice and large brush, I'm going to bring it through in white, essentially in 20% opacity, where I want it. And I want it here, and I want it all the way up here, and here, and there, and perfect, and maybe there. That is not bad at all. Cool. Something like that. Awesome. So now we have done that. We are really getting there right now. So what we could do, we can add some clarity. So once more, I'm going to hit Command Alt Shift and E to create a layer with everything on it. And I'm going to go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And once I'm there, one day, I'm going to increase our clarity slider a little bit. And I'm looking at the mountain and a little bit to the trees in the very front there. Okay, maybe like this. And what happens if we bring the vibrance just a tiny bit higher? Not for the trees, but for the mountain. Okay, let's hit OK right there. And once it has loaded in, I'm going to create a layer mask once more because the effect is horrible in the water. I'm going to hit Command and I to invert the layer mask. And now I'm just going to go through and brush in the sort of the increased clarity effects, if you want, into the different areas. Especially here in the mountain and in this one right here, and also a little bit in the trees, just like that. Perfect. Now we can also, and just to finalize things a little bit when it comes to the light, play with levels. I do love levels because depending on how you play and how much time you want to spend with them, they can make you so happy, and they can change the look of any kind of image you have into something very, very different. So in this case, I'm just going to do like minor adjustments, and I'm just looking at these funny clouds in the sky. Maybe something like this. I'm going to hit Command and I to invert that, and once more, with a nice and large brush, I'm quickly going to put that into the sky. Perfect. That just makes the cloud stand out a tiny bit more. Okay, now what we also can do, just because we can, I'm quickly going to show you how to get rid of these kind of spots. I think that was just dust on my lens or something, can't even remember. I'm going to create a stamp visible, Command Alt Shift and E. I'm going to hit L, no, not L. We are going to use the lasso tool. Where are you, lasso tool? Not lasso tool, patch tool, god damn it. The patch tool. So I'm going to choose the patch tool, going to draw a circle, pop that over, I'm going to hit Command and D to deselect, and the patch is gone. Awesome. I'm going to do this once more just to show you. I draw a circle, draw it into the draw it to the side, hit Command and D to deselect, and it's gone. Well, okay. While we're at it, let's tag this one as well, and it's gone. The patch tool is just good damn awesome. Okay, cool. Now we have done that. I think the light is good. Most things are actually good. We may be able to use a little bit of a vignette, and for this I'm just going to use the exact same layer. Go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and then 1J, when it has loaded up, I'm going to go over to FX. Now there you can create a white vignette or a black vignette. Ooh, white is actually interesting, but of course I'm going to go for black in this particular instance. Do something like that. Yeah, I'm also going to try to protect our highlights. You can just play around with these things, of course, as much as you feel like. Let's decrease it just a little bit to something like that. Once I'm happy, I'm going to hit OK. And maybe last not least, I do have the feeling the trees are standing out a lot here. So I'm just going to take some darkness and bring it to them. To something like that. Invert that. Hit B for my brush. And bring it in. Just a little bit of darkness so that they're not as shiny, right? Awesome. Perfect. And that is all. Well, essentially, I mean, I used some, noise reduction and stuff like that, but I'm showing this all the time. So this time I'm going to concentrate on the important stuff, which is the reflection itself and the particular colors of the trees and these kind of things. Awesome. And we are done. Now, thank you very much for watching. If you did like the video, please do not forget to hit the thumbs up button. And also, if you haven't already and you're new, don't forget to subscribe. It'll help me out greatly. Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess I'll see you in a week. If you have any questions, pop them in the sections below, either on the blog or on the YouTube channel, wherever you are. And until then, have a great time.